All right, today I'm going to be talking to you about common denominators. So common denominators can be useful to you whenever you are comparing two fractions that don't have the same denominator, or whenever you're trying to add or subtract fractions that don't have the same denominator. So the way this works is, let's say we have 3/8 and 4/12. Right now we can see that the denominator, that's that number on bottom, is not the same. This one's 8 and this one is 12. So I want to find an equivalent fraction for each of these that will have the same number on bottom, okay? So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to list my multiples of each of these. So I'm just going to, for now, just list my first 5 multiples of each and see if I find one that's in common. So for 8, it's 8, 16, 24, 32, 40. That's my first 5 multiples of 8. Let's do that for 12. 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. And I might have to keep going, but I'm just going to try 5 and see if I found one that's in common. So let's look here. And I'm looking for the one that's the smallest one that they have in common. 8, do they both have 8 in common? No. 16, no. 24, yes. They both have a 24. So that's going to be my common denominator. It's called my least common multiple. So I'm going to find an equivalent fraction for 3/8 and for 4/12 that has 24 on bottom. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to think about what did I need to multiply by 8 to get 24. Well, look, when I went in my multiples here, it was my third one. That means I was multiplying it by 3. So 8 times 3 is 24. I have to do the same thing to the top. 3 times 3, and that is 9. So 9/24 is the same thing as 3/8. That's an equivalent fraction. Let's do the same thing over here. So what do I multiply by 12 to get 24? Well, multiply it by 2. That was my second multiple. So 12 times 2 is 24. 4 times 2 is 8. So an equivalent fraction for 4/12 is 8/24. So now I can just look at these two that have the same denominator, and I can just look at the number on top to see which one is bigger. What's bigger, 9/24 or 8/24? 9/24, of course. So that means that 3/8 is greater than 4/12. All right, let's try one more. So let's take 5/7 and 6/10. All right, so I'm going to have to list out my multiples of each of these until I find one that is in common. All right, I know we love 7s, right? So 7, 14. And I'm already thinking in my mind, if it's a multiple of 10, it's going to have to end with 0. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I'm doing my multiples over here. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. I'm going to keep going because I don't have anything that ends with a 0 yet. 42, 49. What's next? 56. And then 63 and 70. Oh, look. That's going to end up being a multiple of 10, isn't it? Let's see over here with our 10s. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Oh, I just heard that one. That's the one that they're going to have in common. That's going to be the least common multiple of each, is 70. So I'm going to have to turn each of these into an equivalent fraction that has 70 as the denominator. Ooh, that's crazy, isn't it? All right, so what did we have to multiply 7 by to get 70? Times 10, right? So if I do 7 times 10 to get 70, I have to do 5 times 10 to get 50. All right, over here, what did I have to multiply 10 by to get 70? 7. All right, so if I do 10 times 7 on the bottom, I have to do 6 times 7 on the top to get 42. So now I can compare 50 70ths to 42 70ths to see which one is bigger? 50, yes. So that means that 5/7 is greater than 6/10. So this is the way that you can use common denominators to help you compare two fractions. Like I said, you could also use common denominators to help you add two fractions or subtract them. So I'm going to show you a real quick way to do that. So let's say I have 2/4 and 5/6, and I want to add those. So I'm going to have to do the same thing I just showed you, find the common denominator. So I'm going to list my multiples: 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and we'll see if that's enough. Let's go over here to my 6. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Now, did you hear any of those multiples that were in common? Well, did they both have a 4? Did they both have an 8? Did they both have a 12? Yeah, all right, so our common denominator on this one is gonna be 12. All right, so let's erase that down there. So I have to find that equivalent fraction for 2/4 that has a 12 as its denominator. So what did I multiply 4 by to make it 12? 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. Do the same thing to the top. 2 times 3 is 6. And then over here, what did I multiply 6 by to get 12? 2, yes. So 6 times 2 is 12. 5 times 2 is 10. So now I can add 6/12 and 10/12. And what do I get? 16/12. Now I could leave that as an improper fraction. We learned about that. That's where that number on top is bigger than that number on bottom. Or I could change it into a mixed number, right? So I do that, and what would I get? Well, 12/12 is a whole, and I would have 4 left. So 1 and 4/12. So when I add 2/4 and 5/6, I get 1 and 4/12. You'll also learn about simplifying next year, but I'm not going to take it to that level today. All right, I hope you learned a little something today about common denominators. Practice this at home and get great at it. See you guys later. Bye.